Hello everyone, welcome to the Hey Datto, what do you think of Destiny 2 even though it's not out yet? Nightfall Q&A. Just thought I'd answer some of these hypotheticals that have been coming my way lately. So here we go. Question number 1. Do you think that rather than releasing the sequel, Destiny 2, Bungie should follow the World of Warcraft model and continue to release expansions and updates to Destiny 1? World of Warcraft was released 13 years ago and still has a huge player base. Well, I don't actually think calling it Destiny 2 would be very helpful at this point in time. World of Warcraft has never really needed a giant rebranding of itself. It has always been popular, it's always been pretty good, with millions of players at basically all times. Plus, the size of their expansions are rather large, and most people by now kind of know what the deal is with World of Warcraft. You know what you're getting into when you play WoW. It also has its own engine that they've been constantly updating, although I know basically zero about that, so I'm not even going to try to talk about it. Destiny, on the other hand, needs a rebranding. If Bungie hopes to pull in any new players or any players who left, they need to tell people in some simple way that the old Destiny is gone and the new Destiny is here. Calling all future releases expansions in the public unknowing eye signals to them that it's still the same Destiny that they knew from the past and don't think much has changed. If they see Destiny 2, they might be inclined to come back because generally speaking, sequels tend to have pretty big changes. Now, if Destiny 2 hits World of Warcraft status, where it's pretty well liked and there's millions of people playing, then they can continue to just name everything an expansion and continue to update the game as such, provided that it is more beneficial for the game. But right now, I think it needs to be called Destiny 2, and I had this exact opposite opinion just a few months ago. Next question, how would you feel about 12 or 24 people raids in Destiny 2? I think it would be interesting, but probably not logical, maybe in other activities. I wouldn't mind seeing 12 to 24 man world boss style events or activities where the game automatically puts a whole bunch of people together in a patrol zone or something like that, but actual raids would be pretty clustered unless they widen out the playing fields. It's probably never going to happen though because it's anti-casual, and I'm sure there's some technical limitations in there as well. Something like world bosses could be a possibility, but raids don't really feel like they're on the table, so I don't see how strikes would be, other than the fact that they have matchmaking. But then it would just be 12 people instead of 3, and strikes are not particularly deep in terms of complexity. Patrol missions in their current state do not need more than a toddler at the helm, so I'm sure the only reason a 6-man patrol would be a thing is simply to play with friends, which, it's fine. I would love to have that kind of stuff, but patrol needs a little bit of a revamp to make it worthwhile to implement, in my opinion. Anything over 6 players would also need to scale in an appropriate way, with more ads to kill, not necessarily the same amount of ads as normal, but with higher health. Next question, do you think Destiny raids will continue to be short and sweet, or make them on a much larger scale to something like Black Temple or Icecrown Citadel? These are 2 raids that were generally considered some of the best raid content in World of Warcraft. They were very big. Even if King's Fall was big in Destiny standards, it still only had 3 bosses. I want something like 7 bosses. What do you think? As much as I would love that, I don't think Bungie wants raids at normal gear levels under what they consider to be normal conditions, so probably like a fire team in voice chat with people somewhat familiar with mechanics. They don't want it to take that long to clear. Most raids take about an hour or 2, going at, leisurely pace, maybe a wipe or 2 in there, and pushing it beyond that feels like something Bungie is not interested in doing. Having to come back to a raid the next day is not something I see happening because the game is more catered towards a casual audience. They're probably not going to have the time to do that. It'll be very off-putting to them, etc., etc. So it would be nice, but I really don't think it's going to happen. Next question, do you think Destiny can remain relevant when it has such little content every expansion? If Destiny 2 does not improve the content situation, then I think we're going to have trouble with Destiny. However, I think the problem isn't that Destiny does not have any content. I think the problem is that they do not use the content that they have very well in terms of replayability. It's replayable in the sense that, yes, you can go play it again, But I think of replayability as something different, something where you continue to have a reason to play it other than just shooting stuff because it's fun. Fun only goes so far for certain people, and a lot of people need some sort of incentive. If playing over the same content was incentivized a little bit better, then I think we'd be in a slightly better position, but right now it's not really incentivized. Next question, do you ever feel like Rise of Iron was missing something? Taken King and launch felt really good, but Rise of Iron never captured that feeling. The feeling as getting a whole lot of loot, exotics, new features, and smart updates like quests and Arms Day. And with launch, everything was new. What do you think? Well, Taken King was more of a rebuilding of Destiny, while Rise of Iron simply gave us more stuff to do. It didn't have the sweeping, huge changes of Taken King, the new subclasses, or anything like that, really. It didn't feel the same, because it was nowhere near the same in terms of scale, but we kind of knew that going into it. Rise of Iron was literally just, here is more Destiny as we know it. There you go. But Taken King was like, okay, some things are broken, so we're going to try and fix them. And here's some new stuff. And so that's why they felt different. Next question. Do you expect Destiny 2 to be more or less similar to Destiny 1 in how it works? Subclasses, exotics, patrols, raids, etc. Or do you expect it to have major changes to how everything works from game interface, game types, economies, weapon types, etc., etc., etc.? I think it's probably a little from column A, a little from column B. I get the subclass question a lot. You know, are we going to see new subclasses or new classes entirely? I think we'll get either one new class or one new subclass per existing class at the least. I hope subclasses get more of an RPG style revamp. They're alright the way they are right now, and I understand Bungie is pretty limited with how much they can make each node do in a subclass thanks to PvP being shooter based and not RPG based, but I think it would be neat for PvE. I talked about raids in a video in the past that I'll link at the end of this video, but in general, I think raids have been the most successful thing in Destiny, and as long as Bungie can keep doing that, then I'll be happy. Exotics have always been a point of contention in the community. Should they be overpowered? Should they be super rare? Should we have Xur? Should we have 3 of coins? I think as long as the casual community remains a focus, that exotics are probably not going to change too much. I don't expect too many difference with something like interface. In fact, I'm pretty sure Bungie has won awards for their UI design and their interface, so that would be one of the last things I think they needed to change. Economy, I think, is one of the bigger contenders for massive change, or it at least is open to receiving massive change. Right now, it doesn't really play the hugest role in the game. Glimmer is not really important. Legendary marks are really abundant, even for casual players, and there's nothing to dump currency into for the long term that really matters. So I'd like to see something with that. Weapon types, I don't think we'll see too many changes. We might see minor alterations to current weapon types. Maybe we see a new one, like a specialty one. But if anything, I think PvP specifically might get some sort of a revamp, and how these weapons perform in PvP may alter based on any potential PvP changes. Next question, do you believe that Bungie should have separate PvP and PvE changes to weapons in Destiny 2? Feels like weapons become increasingly worse in PvE, and it makes the time and effort to put into getting these weapons null and void. What are your thoughts? Should they? Absolutely. Do they already do it to some degree? Yes. Will they actually do it full scale? Probably not. Bungie has said that they want guns to feel the exact same and work the exact same way in PvE and PvP, so that players do not get confused. They want people to be able to get guns in PvE and bring them into PvP, or get guns from PvP and bring them into PvE, and there's zero difference whatsoever. What confuses me is that it's not like they should be changing the rate of fire or the recoil patterns on these guns or anything profound like that, just like the damage for the most part. But what I guess they're talking about is more like magazine sizes or perks or something like that. Point is, they want to do nothing that would confuse an otherwise oblivious player, and having completely separate balancing for PvP and PvE on the same gun, for example, would confuse people. They don't want people going, well, the gun works like this in PvE, but then when I go into the Crucible, it's not that good, or it's different. Because people's brains might explode at having to process that information. Not everyone does research, and unfortunately, Bungie needs to account for that. Next question. I think there's no need for a cap on Glimmer and Legendary marks. What are your thoughts? I don't think there's even a need for Glimmer itself in general at this point, but I can't really think of a reason why there needs to be a cap on it. Legendary marks at this point probably don't need a cap, but they don't not need a cap either, because there's no way to invest your marks in anything when you have nothing else to buy, except if you go to the Vanguard guy and you buy a bunch of materials, and then you turn those materials into the faction guys, in which case I would just argue for a legendary marks to faction rep sort of system to be put in place. That would be pretty nice. It's a problem that unfortunately does not really affect many people, so I don't think Bungie is really in much of a hurry to address any sort of that issue. Next question. What are the chances Bungie will bring back the old raids? Honestly, at this point, I think it's actually high. I think there's a high chance. In complete contrast to a video that I made a couple of months ago where I just thought, I was like, no way. It's the only content that hasn't been remastered yet. You know, Bungie's probably not going to make anything brand spanking new in terms of, like, you know, going to a new area on Venus or something like that for any sort of spring update. You know, we might get like a strike or something like that, but, you know, they can't just give us nothing until Destiny 2, and that's something, and it's more like back-end stuff, like it's already designed, they just gotta, you know, futz with it on the back end, whatever that ends up actually meaning. So, yeah, I think there's a better chance than I originally thought. I mean, I base it on absolutely nothing. It's completely baseless, but it doesn't hurt the game in any way. A lot of people would be pretty happy. I think people have given up on getting any brand new content in Destiny because Bungie's doing Destiny 2 super hard right now, so yeah, I mean, it's the last chance we got, and I don't know. I think it's a high chance. Last question. Why did you change your name from Datto Does Destiny to just Datto? Well, I thought that I could have some success in diversifying my content. It's one of the dumbest thoughts and decisions I have ever made, and if it wasn't such a pain in the butt to get re-verified on YouTube after a name change, I would definitely change it back, because I'm sick of it. I'd rather just brand myself again as Datto Does Destiny, even though basically everyone shorts it to Datto anyway. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. Apparently it was, and I'd rather just go back in time and not change it in the first place, because it was misery-inducing. Anyway, that is the end of the Nightfall Destiny 2. What are your thoughts, hypothetically speaking? Nightfall Q&A. I think I said Nightfall twice. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed my answers, positive rating would be pretty nice. Thanks for watching. See you next time.